In today's show, we discuss another of our popular Dynamite Conspiracy episodes, and we state, has mankind actually set foot on the moon, or was it all an elaborate hoax?
And now, the TNT Talk Show, daring to go where other podcasts fear to tread.
Hello, I'm Tony Fasulo, and I share the stage with my esteemed friend and colleague, Tayo Boyer. Tayo, hello, my friend, once again. I hope you are keeping safe and well.
Yeah, Tony, what the hell? What you gonna do, eh?
You know what? I'm not going to ask you to say hi to the audience, so I'm not subjected to one of your horrible jokes.
That's terrible. Why would you not want to hear how many men does it take to open a beer?
Grief, I'm going to ask now, aren't I? I'm going to regret saying this, but okay, how many men does it take to open a beer?
None. It should be open by the time she brings it.
Oh, that's terrible. That's terrible.
I cracked up when I heard it, man. I was like, I gotta tell Tony this, man.
Chauvinistic. That's terrible, man.
This was the joke that I had waiting when we brought our guest in to talk about.
No, we couldn't have used that.
It was so apt.
Our listeners out there, we had a great show just recently where we had a quite a famous guest on with us, and he was high up there in terms of relationship advice. So no, that joke from Tyre would not have played well with him for sure. Anyway, if you want to catch that episode, please tune in onto our various channels and usually.
What's it called, Tony?
It's called. Oh, what was it?
Is masculinity toxic?
That's it. You took the words right out of my mouth.
Excellent.
Yes, is masculinity toxic? So tune in and have a look at that and see if you can find that episode. It's very, very good indeed.
And started. Well, that was a starter. So now for 10 extra points, what was the gentleman's name?
Oliver.
Well done. At least you got the first name.
Oliver
Marcel.
His company was Marcel. His company was Dackley or something.
Danone.
Anyway, Danone, that was
it. But I think a lot of people just probably know from his book.
Yes.
Now, okay, I've actually painted myself into a corner because I've forgotten the name of
the title of the book.
I've forgotten the title of his book, but Oliver Marcel, and he's
great guy, absolutely brilliant. Having him on the show was superb. It was very insightful as well. So, anyway, today's show is another one of our popular Dynamite Conspiracy episodes, and depending on the time, we'll see if we can cover more than one subject. But the first one, by popular demand, has been one which Tayo sort of shrugs his eyes at. But it's, has mankind actually set foot on the moon? Or is it, or was it, an elaborate hoax? Now, Tayo, I don't know whether you want to kick things off here, or do you want me to do it?
I don't even want to be associated with the question, man. You might as well ask me to become associated with the flat Earth theory or something. It's like,
well, I mean, look, I'm personally, my point of view is I think we obviously did land on the moon based on the evidence we've seen. However, there are some anomalies that a lot of the conspiracy theorists have brought up, which on their own, that they actually sound quite valid. So we're going to discuss those here today and see whether we can shed any light on them, if we've got any answers, or maybe they are genuine questions that still need proper answers. So, I mean, the first one that I can bring to the table is the LEM module itself when it landed. Yep. Do you want to?
You said something which immediately intrigued me because, well, it intrigued me or whatever. It concerned me because You said you believe in the lunar landing because of what you've seen. That's what you said, yes?
What the evidence I've seen, yeah.
Because of the
by
evidence,
and large, it makes sense that they landed there, yeah.
Okay. I believe in the lunar landing in spite of the evidence I've seen.
Oh, right.
So that's where we're, I think we've already diverged because the photographs and things like that, the ifs, whens, buts, and howsoever's, which is what lends credence to this idea that we didn't go to we never went to the moon. So I believe that we went to the moon. I'll explain why during the show, but I believe we went there. But if I was just going on the photographic evidence,
yeah,
that would be a hard no from me.
Interesting. But that's part of the reason, really. You're right. There's other compelling bits of information which would corroborate the fact that we did go to the moon. The question is did we actually have a man set foot on the moon? I think there's no argument with the fact that did we go to the moon? Because there have been missions to the moon, even robotic missions. But has a man actually set foot on the moon? That's a different question itself, because that's now drilling deeper into what we were told. Now, NASA, in all probability, they've sent a rocket to the moon. Of course they have. They've even circled the moon. So all the evidence would point to yes, they traveled to the moon. But only NASA have the information really of the landing itself. There's gaps in all this that we have to take on face value from them, and then that fits the pieces of the jigsaw. So we would think, well, okay, the rocket did leave the planet, yeah, that was seen by everybody. It then made its journey towards the moon, yeah, that was also seen. It also got close to the moon, that was seen. Actually landing on the moon, that's a different thing altogether, because you've now then got to get onto the moon's surface safely. That's a big ask. And also get the people on the craft off it safely, navigate the environment safely, do whatever they had to do, get back on, and then lift off again. That's again a big task. And then safely get them back to the moon, get back to the Earth. If, however, part of the conspiracy is that they got as far as the moon, they circled the moon, but never actually landed, and then came back, that's all doable because that's still in space, in quotes. But actually setting foot on the moon could be up for debate.
I don't know. I was quite young at the time. I do remember being allowed to stay up to watch it on TV. I remember that quite clearly. I was in boarding school, and they let us stay up to watch it, and it was so fuzzy. I wasn't that impressed, but I had to pretend to be because everybody else was. So who knows? Maybe we were all pretending to be impressed, but I was just like, "What the hell is going on here?"
The footage wasn't clear, was it?
It really wasn't, and I don't remember now because there've been so many films about spacecraft landing on planets and on the moon. I don't remember what sort of camera angles we even had of the lunar module landing, or even if we even had footage of that. What I do remember is Armstrong coming down, and the very first step when he first placed his foot on the moon, he sank a little bit into it, and he immediately sort of pulled his foot up as if he was frightened. That stuck with me. That it was very tentative. That first step that he ever, as soon as he puts his foot on the moon. Which, thinking about, is kind of weird because it took the lunar landing. It took the lunar module. So why wouldn't it take your foot? But human mind is strange. But at that age, that struck me and somehow added realism for me. That it was quite realistic that he was hanging on to the ladder, with both hands in case anything grabbed him from the moon. That was quite realistic. But then again, you see, where was the camera? Now that I think about it, where was the camera? It must have been on the lunar module. It must have been sort of on an arm or something. So I don't know. You see, when you start thinking about things like that, there are questions. But we need an astronomer or someone like that, someone in the know to answer this question. Weren't their telescopes powerful enough to actually watch these people do these things on the moon?
I don't think they were. I don't think they were.
There must have been, man. Come on.
Not to get that sort of level of detail, no. Because
but you would have seen activity on the moon. I don't know how, but I'm talking about the big commercial. I'm not talking about you and me and Bob down the road.
Well, the radio telescopes are just that.
No, the radio ones.
Radio telescope. That's right.
Yeah, the radio ones. Yeah.
Optical ones aren't powerful enough. It's only now we've got. I mean, even the James Webb telescope, which has just newly been released.
No, that's out in space.
Yeah, exactly, and that doesn't use optics.
Yeah, I'm not talking about. I'm talking about. Didn't we have? I mean, I suppose we can actually research it. Maybe we should have preparation for the show. What is the largest? 1969. What was the largest optical telescope available? Because there must have been people, universities studying things through optical telescopes. Because you can't beat looking at the damn thing with your eye, I suppose, if you can. But I would have thought that someone somewhere, people would have actually seen the thing on the moon with their own two eyes. That's what I think. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's certainly one of my issues, is that it would be just too dodgy for the Americans to pretend, and then someone just goes, "Yeah, no, I saw it, man. It just flew around the moon and came back."
Well, we've got to now go back to 1969 and think what sort of technology was available, even to the authorities, to give them that ability to see that clearly. Yes, they could certainly see things within Earth orbit and just maybe out just slightly beyond, but the moon is still a fair way away.
Well, even with the children's toy telescope, I was still able, as a small boy, to see the eye. On which planet is it? The Saturn? Or no, those are the rings. Neptune. That's with the toy telescope. A little plasticky thing.
Neptune's too far away. You probably saw Mars or...
No, the actual eye of the thing. Remember the eye, the storm that's been going for hundreds of years, apparently?
Just Jupiter.
Oh, Jupiter. Sorry.
Jupiter, yeah. You probably would have been able to see that. Well,
that's in the toy telescope.
I don't say a toy telescope. It must have been quite a good one.
Well, I mean, my parents loved me and all that. I don't know how much they sank into this telescope. It was a plasticky thing. I'll never forget it. But I saw it.
Okay. I mean, that's interesting, but you got to remember that storm is you can fit the planet Earth in it. So it's not insignificant. And when you imagine,
it's far away.
Yeah, indeed. But think about the moon as well. Something to be spotted from the planet Earth looking up would have to be pretty big to be seen. And in all intents and purposes, the LEM module, the lunar module, was small.
Oh, it's just really very, very small.
So to be seen from here would be a monumental task, to be fair.
Well, nobody actually said, let's stay out and use our telescopes to actually look. That plan never appeared anyway. So maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree. I have no idea. I think you can actually nowadays look at the space station as it flies by. I think that's
space station, but that's in near Earth orbit. So
that's easily doable.
Not even geostationary; it's actually in an orbit.
I know you can inspect it quite nicely.
You can with a really decent telescope. But then that's nowhere near as far as the moon. The moon is countless.
I'll put that one into the maybe box. Maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree. So what are you going to say? I interrupted you.
About the LEM module itself, you see. Most of the moon's surface is supposed to be dust and rock. But the LEM module, when it landed, should have created a bigger dust cloud. Because if you think, this is a conspiracy, obviously, that they're putting forward. So when it's coming down to land, the force to keep it at a low speed has to be quite great as it's coming close to the ground. So whatever's underneath the ground should disperse in a huge cloud, and from the pictures of the thing landing, it didn't appear to be as big a cloud as expected. So it itself was a bit strange when something is descending at that speed on a surface which is covered in a dust, and it should have created a massive dust cloud. But again, that's not any sort of doubtful evidence.
I think that has been debunked in a way, hasn't it? Because pictures of the footprints of the astronauts doesn't show that much dust. That the dust layer isn't that thick,
which is unusual.
Well, why? If in fact, isn't that one of the things that people like me use to say that the moon and the earth and, in short, the universe isn't that old? That's one of the things we say, that there isn't a sufficient amount of dust on the moon for 4 billion years or whatever it's supposed to be. So it's in keeping with that. You wouldn't people who expect there to be a lot of dust, which is the old Earth theory, the billions of years, whatever it is. Well, one of the problems is that there's not enough dust on the moon for that. So there we go. So I think that's been thoroughly deep. I think there's not that kind of dust is just not on the moon, and that's why you didn't see those dust clouds.
Fair enough. That makes sense. So yeah, that pretty much debunks that one. The obviously we've seen some of the ones that have been debunked about the flag and all the rest of it, and the shadows.
Oh, the flag.
I know. The flag.
Anyway, the shadows, forget that, man. I mean, there's no way you can explain the shadows, man.
Why? You mean because they're not at the right angle?
The shadows are going two ways at once.
That's
from
odd.
one. Sorry.
That is
from
odd.
from one light source, the sun. How do you get light shadows going two ways at once? The astronaut shadow is going that way. The flag shadow is going the other way. What the heck?
If the surface is uneven.
Surface is uneven?
Yeah, because it's not perfectly
even.
round.
If maybe, but I don't. First of all, and secondly, it wasn't. Now, did I not send you these? Did I send you any of these pictures when we spoke about? Oh, for goodness sakes!
No, you didn't. But
we're going to have to track down that picture and put it into our blurb, because I'm sure I sent it to you.
Here's one which I don't think can be easily explained. The pictures, none of the photographs that were taken actually correspond to the video. Okay. Now, think of the scenario. Okay, Apollo astronaut, big heavy gloves, helmet. The camera was on the chest. Remember, it wasn't a digital camera; it was a film camera. I think what it was said was it was a special camera that had 180 pictures in it. Now you got to remember, it's on their chest, so they can't focus, they can't do anything. They're just clicking the button. Now, NASA have released over 10,000 photos from the landing of the moon. Now, this is over the several landings from Apollo 9 up to Apollo 16 or wherever it was.
Which one actually landed? Was it 11?
11 was the first one, and then
the one that landed on the moon. Okay.
Yeah. So the question is, the time. Here, I've got the figures in front of me. The time spent across all the landings on the planet's surface was 4,882 minutes. Okay.
Right.
And they had NASA released 11,000 perfect photos.
Sorry, say all that again.
4,882 minutes in total on the surface of the moon.
4,000 minutes on the moon. Yeah, okay.
Of which there were 11,000 photos taken, and they're on public display now. 11,000. So that would equate to roughly two per minute.
2 per minute. Yeah, but it's analog, isn't it? It's an analog thing. So you just take frames, don't you?
It's
doable. Well, it's analog. It's an analog camera. It's just continuous film. So you just go through the reel and you select the frames you want. What's the rate? What's the frame rate? 960 per second or something? Or,
No, it was 180 pictures.
No, what's the frame rate of the camera? What's the frame rate? How many frames is it taking per second? Even if it's 60 frames per second, you're only going to choose, how many did you say? 2 out of the 60? FPS, frames per second.
Yeah, but that's not how that camera worked. It was a camera.
It was it wasn't a continuous film? I thought you said it was continuous film.
Not film, photos. 11,000 photos were taken across all the missions from hatch opening to close. Okay, that's how.
What do you mean by across all the missions now? You're confusing me.
Right. 11 to 16 is 5 missions, yeah?
Oh, right.
On the moon, yeah?
Yeah.
In total was 4,882 minutes across those 5
minutes, right?
Minutes that have been on the surface of the moon, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And that would imply that they've taken 2 perfect photographs every minute of the time they were on the surface of the moon.
Hold on,
to do.
I've got my calculator because my maths has gone wonky recently, as you know, because you were laughing at me the other day. So 4,000 minutes is 240,000. Sorry?
4,800.
All right, I'll do that again. 4,800 minutes is actually 288,000 seconds.
Okay.
And if we divide that by 11,000 pictures,
photos,
is 1 every 30 seconds. That's doable.
I'm not saying it's not doable, but the problem being is you're not taking it here that you can take the shot. It's on your chest. And
it wants to be automatic. Perfect. I mean, because you got these big heavy gloves on, they can't have been there clicking anything. It was just continuous, just non-stop. I'd have thought.
And then how do you then change the film?
No, you don't. You just got enough film in there for whatever amount of time that you're going to be on the surface of the moon. I mean, your air pack, how long does that last? It's not infinite, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, tops. So I'm not seeing that as an issue.
But also in perfect clarity with no problem.
Okay, so this is where we get down to what Tyre thinks. Tyre believes that the pictures were faked. And that's where the Americans have run into trouble, because they faked the pictures, and that's why they have all this problem. I do believe they went to the moon, but I believe they were foolish enough to fake the pictures.
Why do you think that is the case then?
By the way, I did send you a picture. Whilst you were talking, I found it, and I've resent it to you. So if you look at your WhatsApp, you'll find the picture, and we'll put it into our blurb, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Oh yes, the shadow is actually completely in the wrong direction.
And that's nothing to do with Earth. That's nothing to do with uneven Earth. The shadow is wrong.
The wrong way. Yeah,
it's going the wrong way.
I hope that picture isn't faked. So I'm just for the benefit of our listeners, Ty sent me a photo of the flagpole and one of the astronauts standing right near it, and you can clearly see the LEM module where the shadow goes from right to left, where the LEM module is on the left side of the picture, and the shadow goes across. And the astronaut's shadow also matches the LEM module. But the shadow
and the rock in the foreground,
and the rock in the foreground, which you can clearly see, also has the shadow, all going in the right way. However, the flag has got a shadow going completely the opposite way, which is almost impossible. Well, it is impossible.
Yeah.
So that's a bit odd in itself. So yeah, that's a bit weird. Obviously, the pictures themselves are a big talking point because there's so many of them, perfect, and no light pollution and no, messy overexposures or bad.
No, you could argue that those are the ones they selected, the perfect ones.
If that's the case, how many did they take? How many did they discard? Do you see what I mean? We have no.
If it's automatic, if it was an automatic thing taking 1 per second, they had 288,000 pictures.
That was never said.
Well, I'm saying I'm not saying that that's the answer. I'm just saying there you are. There's a solution, and it took 1 picture per second.
No auto exposure in them days, by the way.
Well, it's NASA, and I bet you that camera didn't cost 50 quid.
No.
So I mean,
Hasselblad.
Sorry?
Hasselblad is the brand, and the Hasselblad has been around a long time, and they did produce amazing pictures even back then.
Well, so there you go. And
quality of the pictures were always good. However, these were not pictures that you then took and you could, and then off you go. You had to prepare, you had to set it up, make sure the lighting was right, and then take a single shot, and then that picture would be great. So this is now the question: how is that quality so good with you're not even holding the camera? It's on your chest. It moves as you move. So how come there's no, faulty exposures, faulty images? It's just that is a problem, clearly.
Well, if you believe that it wasn't an automatic camera, if I believe that it was automatic, that it would have been. I mean, I'm playing devil's advocate. It would have been an automatic camera. I don't know how many pictures per second it would have taken. Maybe one, maybe more, maybe fewer. But whatever. I'm happy that I'm not happy about what you're talking about now, the resolution and the clarity. I think the issue's there. But as for being able to sort through hundreds of thousands, almost 300,000, and then find X number of really good ones, that's fine.
See, that what you're saying actually makes sense. If that was the case, they took that many pictures. I mean, we don't even take that many pictures on digital cameras. But so why would they have done it on film cameras?
You know how much it cost? Do you know how much it cost them to go to the moon? You got to take everything. You got to get as many images as you can, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of the thing was, bringing back pictures.
I would love to know if indeed there were, I don't know, 100,000 pictures taken. That would make sense. Then that would then debunk all issues with the photos and say, well, okay, they've taken the best ones. They've obviously enhanced them slightly, photoshopped them a bit better.
Well, maybe they made mistakes when they were doing the photoshopping thing.
Yeah,
maybe they cleaned them up too well.
Yeah,
and that has led to further issues.
Yeah. So they
it's like where the negatives, man, and maybe because in those days they had the negatives, so NASA should have kept the negatives and should be able to show us. Well, this
indeed,
is
and that would then get rid of the argument altogether.
It would.
Straight away. I mean, another one that comes up quite a lot is the fact of did you remember the Apollo 14? No, you may not know this one. Astronaut Alan Shepard was playing golf on the moon, and they filmed it. Mm-hmm. Okay. And Mission Control teased him to slice the ball to the right. Okay. And so he did slice it to the right. However, a slice only happens on a golf ball with an uneven airflow.
When there's an atmosphere.
Yeah.
Because that's what creates the spin on.
That's right. So how did the ball then turn and go over to the right? So that's a bit of a weird one. I mean, I'm not saying, that's odd. Also,
has it got zero atmosphere? Has it got zero atmosphere or just a thin atmosphere?
That's a good question. That I don't know. I believe it's got a very small atmosphere. It's not completely devoid, right. But it would that be enough?
Well, there's gravity is less, so gravity is less. So you don't need quite as much spin on the ball. You don't need that kind of effect, as much as you would on planet Earth.
Possibly, yes. That could be a justification. Yes, indeed. Also, there's a little thing that happened with Apollo 16 and the lunar lander. When it was lifting off the moon, the camera, you see, pans upwards. So who's panning
There's a director there or something.
Yeah, who's panning it up? Yeah, who's panning the camera up? There's footage of that. So how is that even possible?
Okay, did it pan up in the control fashion or did it flip up? Because there are forces on the camera, and what stops the camera from jerking up as the the module is lifting up. So was it controlled? Was it controlled and panning and just sticking to one object, which would be like, or did it just like that jerk up or something?
I don't think it jerked up, no. But that's a good answer, what you've said. That could be justifiable in so much that it could have been jerked up by the fact that the module was lifting up.
Yeah.
So yes, that's something that could be, yeah. And also, as you rightly said at the beginning, when Neil Armstrong was coming down the ladder, who took that camera shot?
Oh, there we go. So I suppose they must have had a boom, had a camera out on the boom. I mean, they would have thought about it, wouldn't they? I mean, if you're sending someone to the moon, you think it's coming down, and you want this shot. How are we going to do it?
Yeah,
we're going to do it like this.
It's too big a shot. Let's not lose it.
It should have been maybe more than one. It's another thing is that everything just worked perfectly. And we know that in 1969, even in 2022, very rarely does everything work perfectly. What What didn't work? Everything works. It's a little suspicious. But I think it's going to be very hard to convince me. It's impossible to convince me that the pictures weren't fake, because we've had pictures of crosshairs hidden by the figure in the shot. That's it. That's end of story. That's it. That's caught. Case closed. Guilty.
Manipulate the photos.
You're manipulating the photos. There's no way the figure in the frame can block crosshairs etched into the camera. How does that make sense?
There's also another quirky one on Apollo 12, which is the second proposed landing on the moon. There was only 2 of them on the surface of the moon, and there was a photo that was taken. So you think, well, one astronaut took the other astronaut with a photo, but then as he took the photo,
there was an image. I remember this.
The image of him
in
his visor, but he's not got a camera.
Interesting.
So who took the picture? See, these are all anomalies. I mean, they're not slam dunk. This proves that America didn't land a man on the moon. All this does, it just throws further questions and anomalies. It's what I mean. The one.
What about the horizon one, where there's the same horizon?
Well,
exactly the same horizon.
Yeah, where the lunar module was, and then the same horizon, and the lunar module wasn't there. But apparently, someone has debunked that too, in so much that when it's a perspective thing. If you were to move over here, you would still see the same background, and the lunar module would be out of shot. So that's not as big a problem.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. It depends on how close the things are around the lunar module. If it was literally by its side, and then you took a picture and you still got that same rock and no lunar module, then clearly you can question that. But if it was something just behind the lunar module, then the lunar module's here and the things are behind it. If you move over here, you'd still see the same background without the lunar module in it. So that one, I think,
possibly. I think, from that explanation, I think works for me.
Yeah,
I think that works for me. But who took the picture of
the guy 2 of them?
Yeah,
that's weird, because the fact that the picture was taken of one astronaut, the other one was showing in his visor as a reflection, and he had no camera. So who took the photo?
Dodgy. Very dodgy.
Yeah.
Okay, you see why I believe that they went to the moon?
Go on.
Because in 1969, there was this great space race and competition between the United States and USSR. I don't believe for a second that Russia would have let, well, the USSR in those days, not Russia. I don't believe for a second that USSR would have let the Americans get away with it. They would have debunked the hell out of this if the Americans hadn't landed. So they must have been tracking it. They must have heard things. They must, if they were expecting a separation of the vehicle, that's something maybe radar would have picked up, for goodness sakes, and there wasn't one. They'd be like, So I don't see how. Can you imagine the Soviet Space Agency, all the you know, equipment at their disposal, and they would have been very interested in this one particular event. They'd have had everything looking at it. Maybe even for military purposes, that where the Americans, you want to get to the moon, at the same time they'd like to drop off a couple of nukes or something, So you'd have to really closely monitor what was going on.
They would, yeah.
And then they didn't say anything? Come on. That's
another a positive into so much to back up the fact that they did go because of that reason.
What about the stuff left on the moon, like the mirror that for reflecting the mirrors? Is it one or two for reflecting?
I think it's one that they can bounce stuff off. But again, that could have been put down there with a mechanical means. It doesn't mean a man. It's what I'm saying. It doesn't mean a man has set foot on the moon and placed it there.
What about the flag? Isn't the flag still up there?
Don't know. Good question. Don't know.
I thought the flag was still up there or something.
But who's been to corroborate?
People have gone round the moon since then, haven't they? I think the Russians have been around.
Small. You think about even around our planet, even with the most sophisticated tech, can you actually see?
Yeah, but we know where they landed, don't they? We know where they landed.
Yeah.
There's a certain name for it. So if you're going around the moon, and you can't tell me they're going to go around the moon. You don't have these fantastic cameras. I mean, isn't that point of thing is to use these cameras to map the moon very closely and everything? Surely you'll be able to zoom in, I mean, for goodness sakes, from space, we can take license plate numbers.
Can we? Or is that just a film?
Oh, I didn't know it was just a film. I thought it was based on reality. Maybe, I don't know, that's Jason Bourne, but I thought I thought we could actually do that. I didn't find it, I mean, in Bond movies, you can take a license plate from space anytime you want. That's the lie. I think you can take a license plate from space under certain circumstances. For instance, no clouds, and things, and the car is in a certain place, not sort of, hey, where's Tony's car? There you go. I don't think we can do that. That doesn't make any sense. But I certainly thought we had that kind of technology. But
Okay. I mean, those are some of the big ones. I mean, going back to the LEM module. The LEM module was 17 tons. I'm quite surprised by that. It's as heavy as that.
I'm surprised that we can put up anything that weighs more than a couple of pounds. When you hear that a Boeing 747 is, what is it, 300, some ridiculous, you think, how? So I give 17 tons, okay, they can do it, White man's magic, I call it, man. I have no idea how the hell. And then they scribble, when they scribble incantations, and people don't understand. I look at it and they go, oh, look, they're scribbling magical incantations. And you go, oh, it's maths. Yeah, well, to me, it looks like a magical incantation. And then you do magical things with all these, things in it that, frankly, shouldn't be up there, man. But there we go. So
no, it is incredible stuff. I mean, there are questions as well about the Van Allen belt. Do you know about this?
I do. Now, I don't like the standard debunking responses.
Just to benefit of our listeners, the Van Allen belt. Imagine you got the planet Earth and it looks like this. You've got these belts, that radiation belts that arc out. There's two of them. And they do that, and they loop back from the North Pole round to the South Pole, and then there's another one that goes even bigger around and then comes back. Now these are high radiation, and it's these that cause the auroran lights. Those green lights that people see all the time in the Scandinavian countries and places like that. It's that's being affected. So the problem is these bands are very highly radiated, and NASA did say that to go through those you need the actual Apollo mission, the thing, to have 2 meters thick of lead in order to protect the pilots and the astronauts from that. So that was a little bit strange, including the radiation that's also on the moon itself, because the sun flares go to the moon. There's no atmosphere to protect the astronauts on the surface of the moon itself. And you'd need really incredibly thick suits to protect them from this deadly radiation from the sun. We're okay on the planet Earth because we got an atmosphere that protects us. But obviously on the moon, it's not there. And as you leave our Earth's atmosphere going through the Van Allen belt, you are further exposed to radiation, which was likened to what the guys in Chernobyl had to go through. So there's all these questions saying, well, how the heck then would they have suits which were thick, but they're certainly not meters thick, and the actual spaceship itself was thick, but it wasn't, set in lead, otherwise it would never have taken off. So how were the astronauts protected from all this radiation? And not one of them was sick.
The standard response is that the maths is wrong and the Van Allen belt isn't that strong, and people point to our satellite communications and say these things go through the Van Allen belt and they're unaffected.
No, they don't actually. They don't actually make it out of the Van Allen belt. Our satellites are within near orbit, so they don't
we don't have we have near orbit satellites, and then we have satellites that are much further away. Not all satellites.
They don't reach where the Van Allen belt goes out, because it goes out quite far. It's not close to the Earth. They actually
how far is the moon away from us?
The moon takes us 3 days to get there.
No, how far away is it?
300,000 miles or something.
Yeah, 250,000 miles. But we've got satellites out for 1 million miles. So what are you talking about?
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, we do. Some of our GPS satellites are way out there. There are other things that are out there for God knows what reasons. I can't remember, but yeah.
Really?
Well, that's what I remember.
I mean,
they're all sorts of. I've seen images, I believe. Well, not images. Simulations. Where they're all over the place. There's supposed to be a junkyard, so they keep sending them further and further out. Just get the hell out of the way of the others, basically.
Okay. What artificial satellite?
And what is it again? Something to do with. It's to do with money.
Go on.
That it's more profitable in the long run to send them further away. I don't know why. In the long run, if you send them out further, you save more money than if they low Earth orbit.
But the thing is, though, aren't the satellites shielded? All the electronics, which are very small, shielded. You're not shielding humans, are you? So even if the satellites are further afield, near the Van Allen belt, they're shielded. The electronics actually shielded.
The electronics will be shielded, but sorry, you've got sensory things that need to be. Maybe they're hidden during the transportation, then they fold out and things. Who knows? I don't know, but I think one of the things is so the standard well, that is the standard debunk thing. That is not that strong. That's why you can
Yeah.
You can fly to the moon and things and not end up dead. Even the cosmic ray thing, even the cosmic rays, apparently it's only during certain events. It's like a solar flare.
Yes, which are deadly.
Well,
also bad for the Earth as well.
Yeah, they're bad, but we're protected by our magnetism and whatever.
But wasn't there one flare that went out when actually Apollo 16 was going up? They should have been fried, really. So anyway, they should have been. But if that had been in their direction, then that would have been curtains, because they would have been exposed to so much radiation. But then again, I don't know whether it actually crossed their path or we don't know. But then again, these solar flares are huge. They're not insignificant.
Did they hide on the dark side of the moon for a while?
Just hide away. Maybe.
Well, if you work out, if you've got all the fuel you need, and you can work out when the flare is going to hit. You kind of arrange it so that you're on the dark side of the moon.
Possibly, yeah. Use the moon as a shield.
Use the moon as a shield and you'll be fine. So again, it's doable.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, any more? Do we have any others that you feel?
Well, you see, that was you. Now, the ones I've heard are interesting. Like this gentleman, now I forget his name, but he was on my screen a couple of days ago. And I believe I sent you, yes, a gentleman called Sibrel. Sibrel.
Oh, yes.
Bart, B-A-R-T, Bart Sibrel.
Yeah.
He is, he's a journalist, an investigative journalist.
Yeah.
And he claims that we never went to the moon. Now, he's not his claim. He came across someone on that person's, he came across somebody who was dying. And this person who was dying told him about, how am I going to put this now? His father. So he came across Man X, because I'm trying to find his name. It doesn't have to be as mysterious as Man X, but I just can't remember his name. He came across, I'm going to call somebody John, okay? His name isn't John, but at least stop us being confused. John was dying. And John told Bart Sibrel that John's father had been in the service when this Apollo mission thing took place, the moon landing shot. And on John's father's deathbed, he confessed that we never went to the moon. So it was a deathbed confession, which was videotaped. And John told Bart about it, but said the videotape had been lost under mysterious circumstances. But on John's deathbed, because John was dying of cancer, he was prepared to make a deathbed confession about what his father told him. And it is John's deathbed confession that we see in a video, because unfortunately, John's father's deathbed confession has been lost. And this Sibrel is S-I-B-R-E-L, and you can go to him at sibrel.com, and you can look at it for yourself and make up your own mind.
On the thing, yeah.
Because I just wonder, if you're dying, are you still going to be wanting to play a hoax or anything?
Yeah. It does make you think, why would you at that point? You wouldn't, would you? You'd be telling the truth, get off your chest.
I wouldn't have thought so. And he said he had to. In fact, John told Bart Sibrel not to release this until he was dead.
Because he didn't want anything to happen to further affect him or whatever, wasn't it?
Yes. It was it was a few months, and Sibrel had to wait. And I believe there was also some documentation, but I don't have that. I don't have the details of the documentation. I don't know if we're still waiting for Bart to release them, but I understood that there was some documentation that would be released once John had passed away, which he'd passed away, I think it was only a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it? I believe.
Oh,
because
wow.
The video came out
just recently, didn't it?
4 or 5 days ago, yes.
I'm just gone on his website, actually, and I'm seeing it. There's got a book now on Kindle by Bart Sibrel called Moon Man. And it actually says, Moon Man reveals for the very first time a military eyewitness's deathbed confession of where Apollo 11 was filmed. The CIA code name plus Sibrel's bizarre espionage adventures of being drugged and kidnapped by the CIA. So this is interesting because of this information, not wanting it to become news. Now the thing is, there's this Does this Bart Sibrel now add more ammunition to the people who are saying that the whole mission was a hoax, or does it say that some of the landings actually happened? It's just they didn't hit their deadline of 69? Because there's some other people say that they did land on the moon, but it was after the deadline. But they couldn't say they'd missed the deadline because it would have looked bad for them, obviously. So they faked it for the first Apollo mission to make it look like they hit their target of, before the not the century, before that decade was out, and John F. Kennedy's words were right. They managed to do it within the 10 years. But subsequently they did get to the moon, so the things they planted were planted afterwards. They just didn't make it on the date they said they would.
Yeah, well, I still feel that they probably made it when they said they did, but they faked the evidence for it. I mean, they came back with moon rocks, so where did they get those from?
Well, that's what I mean. They probably got there. They have got there, but it's still up for debate on whether or not it was a man set foot on the moon.
Okay, so how did they get the moon rock if nobody set foot on the moon?
Well, you've got probes that have done that. We know that.
And then they came back. I mean,
yeah. Then probes came back. Do you remember we had the lunar landers that went on and took rocks out of the surface and brought it back home?
How did they get back?
That's happened subsequently.
How did they get back?
What do you mean? How did they get back?
How did they get back? I know the land probes, and the probes analyze things that they dig up or touch or whatever it is there and then. I've never heard about them coming back with the blooming thing. They analyze things, but they got all this analyzing equipment on board.
Okay, here's a question for you as well, right? You're going onto another planet. You don't know all the microbes that are there. You don't know what's on the surface. You assume it's dead, and as is the case with the moon. You're finding rock. You're just bringing it back to our planet without safety, without it locked away in some sealed container that is not exposed to our air, or you could let out some bacteria that could end up, flooding our planet. There's protocols for this. So did they bring the rocks back?
Well, they brought rocks back. You can actually buy some, can't you?
Moon rock.
You can actually buy moon rock. I mean, it ain't cheap.
We've had moon rock land from meteorites, haven't we?
No, that's not moon rock. That's meteorites, isn't it? Why would it come from the moon? What would make it leave the moon? If we've had meteorites,
I don't know.
Nah.
The moon has been impacted many, many times in the past.
Yeah, it's not going to. Nah, forget about that. No. But the actual moon rock you can buy. You can also buy meteorites, I believe.
Where can you get this stuff from? Don't tell me eBay.
No, NASA. NASA.
Really?
Yeah.
NASA actually selling moon rock.
That's right. But like I said, it's not. I mean, for people who universities and things, it's not. Tony wants a moon rock for his from for his lounge or something. Yeah, it's. I think you got to be serious, and you've got to have money. So I think that's
So,
and I think the Russians
several £100 million, I would assume.
No, hundreds of thousands for grams, I think.
Oh, okay. So it's not a proper rock, is it? It's just crumbs almost. Moon crumbs.
Rock. I suppose it's grams from the rock. Grams from the rock. Sounds like a kind of weird drug deal, doesn't it?
It does.
How many grams you want? And then the Russians sell meteorites as well, don't they?
The Russians do?
Yeah, there's a lot of them that land in Siberia for some funny reason. Something to do with rotation of the Earth or something, and the angles of the stuff.
Siberia is pretty big. If you think about in terms of landmass, it's enormous.
Well, not just that. It's something to do with just, I don't know, the Coriolis effect and something and yada yada and blah blah blah. And when you're coming in from somewhere, you tend to be headed in that direction.
Okay, that's
for some funny reason.
That's like that Tunguska. I mean, I know we're
digressing. Oh yeah. That's the Tunguska event. That must have been something. Goodness knows what the hell that was. Well,
No.
some impact of some sort, but
They say it could have been alien or could have been a meteor. We don't
oh,
know.
alien.
Why do you say that? Why do you shrug your eyes?
Oh,
This is the thing, you see. I know. Did we land on the moon? We don't know. I mean, personally, I think we did. That's just my view. But obviously, I'm for the basis of the show. I'm giving the point of view from conspiracy theorists who come forward with their reasons why they don't believe it. What you've presented now from this Bart Sibrel is quite compelling, because the guy in the video who's on his deathbed, you have to ask questions. Why has he left it so long and waited until he's dying to release this information?
No, he didn't wait until he was dying. He released it to Bart Sibrel, but didn't let Bart Sibrel release it until he was dead. Not even until he was dying.
Wow.
So he said, "Don't release it until I'm dead." And I'm still talking about the document. The document. I don't know what those documents. What those documents are. I don't know if it just proves his father was there or something like that. I don't know what those documents are. But he said, "Wait until I'm dead, and then nobody can. And then you can do what you want to do with it. And good luck to you, basically."
Didn't he say? I did remember seeing this actually. Didn't he say that there was two enormous hangars that had special privilege to get into, that nobody normally could get into, but his father was one of the select.
As a guard, was a guard. He was from the FBI or something like that. He was some like security. He was part of the security detail.
And so many people were not permitted to go inside this.
Not permitted, yeah. And then he said the president, what was it, Lyndon? Which one was it?
Lyndon Johnson, yeah.
The president showed up. Yeah, saw everything. Must have approved what they said, and then he left. And he said it devastated his father. The father was devastated. Now, I find it odd that anyone was left alive. I'd have assumed that all have ended up dead.
In case it got out, you mean?
Yeah. That kind of a secret. One person can keep a secret, but two people, it's not a secret any longer. So you have a whole bunch of people. I'd have thought that all have ended up dead in mysterious circumstances.
Didn't a lot of scientists die early doors on this project?
Unfortunately, I've got another memory of a lot of people dying on something else, but it's not this, I think. Not a connection with this. A lot of people who studied something else. Now you've got me going to it. I can't remember, but there's some other thing where a lot of scientists, an unusual number of scientists just ended up dead.
Yeah. Someone gave a great example of how could you keep this quiet if this was a hoax?
Yeah.
Well, the argument really goes in the fact that when you're involved with a big project, all the people who work on the project, not many of them actually have all the details of the project.
Don't know what they're doing.
They don't. They're siloed. You pigeonholed into certain areas. So you're responsible for this component over here, and your team is responsible for this component. You're this. So all of them together make up part of the deliverable. And then there's other teams doing similar things. So yeah, you could have thousands and thousands of people all doing certain parts on the program, but only a few select at the top would know all the detail and what all the pieces add up to. So you're right that there's only a select few people that would know all the details of the program. But would they all be killed off now? Perhaps, but yeah, perhaps they are.
Now they're decades later. Yeah.
But it would be interesting to know if there's any information as to who at NASA, the top people that were aware of the NASA program, what was their outcome? Were they died of natural death, or
do they have the same mortality rate as Russian oligarchs? in 2022, because those boys are dropping like flies, man. If I was one of them, I'd be, I don't know, I'd be in the silos, deep underground, man.
Well, look, they lived at large for a number of years.
With a Kalashnikov, man, and you wouldn't really want to come visiting because I'll kill you, man.
No. Well, they lived it large on the money that they got, from the Russian state. Now is the time to call in the debt,
Dropping like flies, man.
Oh, man.
Talk about a deal with the devil. Your 7 years is up, goodbye.
Well, do you know what? That looks like that, to be honest, over there, which is incredible. But anyway, let's. I mean, we've got nearly to the top of the hour here, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So someone did give a very funny quote, actually. They said, how is it possible that something, if it was faked as big as this, that no one would whistleblow? Okay. Because he gave a great example. He said, look, even the president, right? President of the United States, a few years back, had an intern in his office, and he didn't have sexual relations with her, but that's still whistleblow, and that's something insignificant, whether, she did or she didn't. Most of the population of the planet doesn't care, but it's still leaked. So in other words, certain things do come out. So something as monumental and as huge as the moon landing, with granted only a few people who know the full picture, would one of them maybe whistleblowed? Or
I don't know about whistleblow, because
fearing for their lives, maybe
your lives. I suppose if you look, let's say you're picking people for this project, right? You wouldn't pick. Well, I don't think you pick Tyre, but you might pick Tyre, okay? Because it's one wife and one daughter. But you would probably pick Tony.
Why would you pick me?
One wife and kids. The more kids, the more relationships, the brothers and the sisters, the more people to threaten. It's not just you be thinking about at that stage. If there's a credible, by the way, this has to be credible. If there's a credible threat that they're going to do your family, you're going to shut up.
Yeah, of course.
So you pick the right people, and also people with a history of shutting up anyway. So you've got all the material that you need to look at. This person tends not to be. He's not a talker, and he's also got a large family, and he'll understand. Yeah, if you get that kind of a crowd together, you're not going to get that. I don't think you're going to get any news.
No, I think you're right. So it can be hushed up if it needed to be, for the sake of the country.
Yeah.
If they reeled out saying, look, this is for national security, for the best interests of the American people of course are going to do things for their country and stand firm on that. So yeah, you're right.
Let's face it. We never found out who killed JFK. No. And for sure, it wasn't that chap who got knocked off. It wasn't Oswald, what was his name? Harvey Oswald.
Harvey Oswald, no. And then there was the other guy who killed him.
Yeah, but Jack Ruby.
Yeah, cancer
Jack Ruby.
as well.
Yeah.
So selected. Incredible. Yeah. That's a separate topic.
Yeah, I'm just trying to
discuss that. Should we discuss?
We have discussed. I'm just trying to say that there you go. You can keep it a large secret. Because that's one of the biggest. Who killed the president?
Yeah, indeed.
And they got away with it scot-free, wherever it was. Got away with it. Got away with murder.
Well, yeah, indeed they did, and significantly as well. President. Right, okay, we are getting close to the top of the hour. Let's have a final conclusion. Tyre, what do you think? Did the USA set a man on the moon?
Well, until you came in with your muddy in the water, I used to think that. I used to be so certain that they did. Well, you've successfully muddied the water, Tony. And I'm not 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure any longer, man. I've always felt that the pictures were faked, and so on and so forth. Well, there are now, some questions that have risen up today, and I'm like, yeah, maybe. I mean, hopefully they went, but until I need more information, and now I have some other questions to ask. And then when I've asked those questions, I'll know, especially about what the Russians were thinking about, how closely did they monitor everything. And then when with answers from there, I think I'll feel better about making a determination.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, I do think they went to the moon. I'm not 100% convinced they did it by the date they said, though. I think there could have been, they were behind schedule and they weren't going to make it, so they not faked it. They had to show they hit the deadline to save face, basically. But then subsequently did it later. So there's possibility of that. And the moon mission itself, they maybe got to the moon, so it looked legit as far as the mission was, but it never managed to land on the moon because they couldn't guarantee A, the safety of the astronauts, and B, to safely get them back off the surface to the module.
Because we don't know any of that. Didn't they bring moon rocks back though? Seriously.
On that very first trip.
Yeah.
That very first trip.
Yeah. Surely they would have brought back something. And one thing we know is that moon rock isn't made of the same material as Earth rock.
No, that's true.
So where do they get those rocks from? Well, I suppose held back some meteorites or something. But then again, meteorites have been exposed to tremendous heat when they were coming through the Earth's atmosphere. So they have a certain telltale signature. So they can't be passing off meteorites as moon rocks. So they went, man, come on. At least at some point, maybe not in 69, at some point somebody's been.
I think they have been, but maybe, you're right, not actually in 69. I think.
Although I believe they went in 69, I still believe it, but I got some doubt now. Before I had no doubts. Now I've got a smidgen of doubt. I'm just like, yeah, okay.
You see, the thing for me is, why doctor the pictures? That is
because they didn't have any. You know that what you're talking about, the camera thing on the chest and everything. It's all nonsense. I mean, it just didn't work, and they just felt we can't come back and tell the people, sorry, none of our cameras worked. None of our chest cameras worked. So they doctored them. That's what I actually think happened. That they made them up. And that's why they're in trouble now, because this is why you don't tell lies. You don't tell lies that people believe. It's better for them to have come back and said, sorry, the cameras didn't work. You know, we've got some dodgy, we've got the video.
It look bad. It's all.
Yeah, it makes you look bad, but at least you're still a trustworthy source. I don't think we'd be talking about did we go to the moon if they had just come forward and just said, you know, because people wouldn't have this evidence like the crosshair. That crosshairs thing is just that's the end of the story, man. It's actual proof that pictures were doctored.
Yeah. Ridiculous. Anyway, that was an interesting show, but unfortunately we have reached the end of the show for another week.